Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alec Reed, this is my channel Alec Reads, and today we're reading a drarry fanfiction by multiple fandom fish. I think that it's all one word, so I have a really hard time understanding what it is. But anyway, if you hear any weird sounds, it's a mobile heater. My heater broke and it's freezing where I am. Literally, we're being told that there could be snow soon, so love that. But our heater broke and my window's broken, so trying to get a hold of the landlord. But either way, if you hear any weird noises, it's the heater. I'm sorry. I tried to do this without the heater so that it wouldn't make as much noise, but I could lose toes from that, I swear. So anyway, let's jump right into the video. Chapter 3. Harry, wake up. Harry's eyes fluttered open, immediately connecting to Ron's brown ones. He mumbled a quick sorry before rubbing his eyes with the back of his hands. You need to change, we'll be arriving soon, Hermione added, already dressed in a white button-up, with her tie pressed against it, along with her small black skirt, gray thigh-high socks, and her clunky Mary Janes. She had yet another thick book in her hands. Even Ron was already dressed, although it wasn't as pristine as his girlfriend's. He grabbed his uniform from the bag and made his way down the train. After his quick wardrobe change, he made his way back to the compartment. When he arrived, just before he could open the door, he saw Ron and Hermione with grins plastered to their faces, sitting very close. The girl pulled Ron into a soft kiss. Sweet, loving. She blushed as he pecked her on the lips, and then all around her face. It was times like these when Harry longed for a partner. He wished he could cuddle with someone while drinking warm butterbeer by a burning log fire, or taking a long stroll through Hogsmeade in the winter. He wished he'd finally be loved and wanted by a person he loved with all of his being. This certain thought brought him back to the dream he experienced on his birthday. Harry thought about it a few times after it happened, but he never observed it thoroughly. He was quite scared to. You see, in the dream, he had kissed his enemy, Draco Malfoy, a boy he's hated for more than 7 years. Well, that's a lie. Harry wouldn't admit it out loud, but he had a slight crush on him during third year. Draco became extremely attractive that year. In the dream, the kiss was amazing. It was one, or might have been, the most amazing thing he had experienced. It was loving, it was beautiful, and it was breathtaking. Harry wished he could experience it again, which was weird because that made him realize he wanted to kiss Draco again. No, I don't want to kiss that git. He scowled at his own thoughts, and he walked into the compartment, now seeing Hermione and Ron arguing. Don't you dare insult the writing of William Shakespeare. He's just an old fart. Ronald, his writing is a masterpiece, and your peanut brain obviously cannot comprehend it. They both went quiet after that. Ron huffed and Hermione glared before going back to her book. Harry just frowned. He hated his friends fighting because it either meant he had to pick sides or they were on the verge of breaking up. Harry went over and sat beside Hermione again before closing his trying to get sleep. Suddenly he felt a pair of eyes watching him. He turned, not catching a look out the train, but only their hair. Their platinum blonde hair. Harry felt his heart quicken at one suggestion that stayed in the front of his mind. Quickly he snuck his head as a light pink blush spread across his cheeks and ears. He couldn't think that. This was his sworn enemy, apart from Voldemort, of course. Harry felt the train come to a sudden halt. He almost fell forward. Ron snorted from where he stood. Harry smiled and rolled his eyes. He heaved his back from the ledge. It seemed to be heavier every year. He followed his friends out of the train, keeping his head down to avoid stares, glares, winks, smirks, etc. When you're famous, you get every kind of look out there. Harry almost bumped into Ron if he didn't look up in time to see him kissing Hermione. He sighed quite loudly. Obviously, that was heard by the couple, and they both blushed. Sure, Harry hated when they fought, but he almost despised being a third wheel. It made him feel even more lonely than he already was, even though he did smirk at their reaction. As Harry was brought away from his own thoughts, he realized they were already at the carriages. He placed his bags on a pile and climbed into the carriage behind Hermione. "Oh, hey, Neville." Harry looked up to see the boy. He was extremely tall now, and, dare Harry say, quite attractive. He was dressed in a dark blue jumper and some black jeans, with his brunette hair swept to the side. "Hi, guys." Neville smiled kindly at the trio before closing the door and his herbology book he held in his hands, and talking to Hermione. Ron listened in on the relationship while Harry was once again left to his own thoughts. He looked ahead and saw a few coaches in front. He caught the eye of a certain blonde boy, the blonde boy being none other than Draco Malfoy. The blonde boy sent him a glare, making Harry roll his eyes, even if a slight blush covered his cheeks. He quickly turned away. What the fuck? Why'd I blush? He glared at me. It's not like he winked or smirked or smiled with his perfect teeth. Jesus Christ, Harry! Harry shook his head as the blush deepened. Sure, maybe he had the slightest crush on Draco in third year, but he was only 13, and that was the year everyone became attractive. Thinking about third year made Harry think about Sirius and Remus. He missed them greatly. If anything could bring them back, Harry would do it, anything. But now he just had Teddy to remind him of Remus and Tonks. He sighed and sniffed quietly before looking back forwards. He once again caught Draco's eye, and Harry could have sworn he saw guilt or sympathy flash in his silver eyes, but it was gone too quick to tell. Draco shook his head and looked forwards too. As if on cue, the castle appeared. The castle seemed like home, but sad, knowing all of the people who died here, lost their family members, best friends, etc. Harry felt guilt, sadness, numbness wash over him all at once. His breathing quickened and tears brimmed in his eyes as the castle became closer and closer. It looked over them like a threatening shadow, and suddenly Harry was terrified to go back. He took a shakier breath, followed the three out of the carriage. Harry's hands flew up to upper arms and rubbed them subconsciously. Come on, Harry. Harry turns towards the voice to see Hermione, Ron, Neville, Dean, and Seamus already halfway up the stairs to Hogwarts, not to mention that Dean and Seamus were holding hands. No way, Harry thought. He quickly ran up the stairs and stared questioningly at the two boys. Harry, we've been together for 2 years now, Dean answered, staring lovingly at his boyfriend. I'm the only one who didn't know, Harry asked. He was completely clueless of what was happening. Was he seriously the only one that didn't know? Harry, they weren't exactly secretive about it. Hermione chuckled and walked further up the steps. Hey, wait, I'm still confused. Why the fuck is he staring at me? Fucking Saint Potter. Our great savior, Harry James Potter. Draco snarled, mocking Harry. You know, Draco, Blaze started, already smirking. For someone who hates him, you sure know a lot about him. Draco flushed pink with embarrassment. How was he meant to make a snarky comment back to that? It's only like you and Weasley. Blaze, so shut the fuck up. Draco crossed his arms. He turned away from his friends and looked behind them. Suddenly his eyes caught sight of Harry Potter's. He glared at him, and only a second later he saw a light shade of pink spread across his pale cheeks. Draco's brow furrowed in confusion at that. Harry was blushing. At him. Why was he blushing at me? Did he? No, he would never. Draco's brow was now furrowed in slight anger, but his eyes once again locked with Harry's face. He saw a sad expression as he started in front of the school. Soon their eyes met again, and Draco realized he quickly had to put on his facade again. Before his thoughts could go any deeper, the carriage stopped abruptly. Draco looked up and realized the castle overshadowed them. He took a deep breath and stepped off the carriage, Blaze and Pansy following behind him. Well, this is where it starts. Chapter 4. The massive doors swung open, a loud clash of the hinges rang through the halls as the students made their way between the tables. Dainty cutlery decorated the tables with house-associated cloths laid on the dark wood. At the front of the hall, teachers were perched on their seats, each having a welcoming smile on their faces. The candles floated through the sky. They danced above the heads of every person and glowed brightly throughout the hall. Harry walked through the doors, Hermione in front and Ron trailing behind. He tried to keep his head down to avoid being recognized, however it didn't work, because he got a few strange looks from the younger years. Harry sighed and sat down with his friends, keeping his head low the whole time. When the Slytherins entered, it was like a bomb went off. First it was silence, then the hall erupted into whispers and murmurs, Draco, of course, in front of all of the Slytherins, in all his Malfoy glory. He heard Ron scoff beside him, and he could practically feel the glare they were getting from the other houses. Harry just bit his lip and turned his face to McGonagall. Welcome back to Hogwarts, she began. This year things are very different due to the events of last year. Her eyes saddened and a wave of guilt flooded Harry's mind. He gulped. This year I am your headmistress, and many of your teachers are brand new, so you may realize the new tower at the edge of the school. That is restricted to 8th years only. Not to worry, 8th years. You are still in houses. You are just in a dorm altogether. We will escort you there after the prefects have taken the students to the common rooms. She smiled sweetly and welcomed the first years into the hall. Children followed the half-giant, Hagrid, to the front of the hall as they all gaped at him, and the older students and few even spotted Harry. He was holding it. Would take them a few days and not a few minutes. The headmistress began the sorting ceremony, Harry completely blocking out her voice. Harry rested his head on his right hand, staring across to the Slytherin table. Harry didn't know why, but ever since he got onto that train, he felt a pull towards them, or to a certain boy in that house, that boy being Draco Malfoy. The black-haired boy had no clue what this was exactly, but it confused him greatly. Draco was staring glumly down at the table, tracing the fine details of the plate below. Harry watched his slim, pale fingers moving elegantly around the plate. His fingers scraped the pottery slowly and carefully, not daring to leave any traces. His hands picked up the steel silverware and examined it carefully. Draco's eyes raking down the metal in his fingers. He seemed to realize the cutlery was either cheap or just not good enough for him because he placed it back down, a disgusted look on his features. Draco then continued to trace his fingers along the details of the plate. Harry bit his lip and perked up slightly as a certain picture came into his head. Quickly he shook his head and blushed a deep crimson. He took a shaky breath and excused himself from the table. Luckily, Harry was able to slip through the doors without catching a stare or causing a stir. He walked swiftly through the hall and into the nearest bathroom. He sighed and undid his tie, feeling overwhelmed and suffocated by it. Harry took deep breaths. He strode up to the sink and leant on it. He tried to cool his face with the freezing water. Stop it, he's Draco Malfoy. Harry groaned in frustration. Why did he have to be the chosen one? Why was he destined to be this person to save the world? Why did he have to be the one being stared at and watched? Why did he have to be confused over love? Last year he had his whole life planned for him. Destroy Voldemort, go become an Auror, marry Ginny, have 3 beautiful children, retire, and maybe write an autobiography and then die happy. But no, he had to be destined to be confused with his sexuality. He hated this. He hated himself for being different. Why couldn't he just be like Hermione and Ron? Harry wished he was a different person with a normal life, or he had someone that understood, but he was just the boy who lived twice. No one understood him, and he was just left with his own thoughts that swamped his brain. Harry didn't realize that he now had tears streaming down his cheeks. The first time he cried properly since the war, he took shaky breaths and then rubbed his face with his hands. Taking a deep breath, he started to pace back and forth. It's only 1 more year. And what the hell is Draco doing to me? And since when is he Draco? Draco saw Harry leave, wondering what he was doing and if this was going to be another Harry Potter parade. He sneered and thought he should follow him, but it'd probably end like 6th year, and suddenly Draco's face paled. He hated the scars on his body, and that was another reason he worked out over the summer. Maybe if he had a nice body, it would distract people from the scars. He shrugged it off and ruffled a piece of chicken out of his mouth before looking around the hall. Draco scrunched his nose as he saw Weasley across the hall, eating like a pig. Pansy and Blaze followed his gaze. He is disgusting, Pansy sneered. She grimaced and turned away, otherwise she might throw up. He's just hungry. Well, he's the love of your life, so you would say that. Pansy smiled sarcastically before stabbing a piece of chicken and shoving it between her red painted lips. Shut up, Pans. It's not like you don't have the biggest crush on the ginger. Blaze shot back, and Pansy looked at him with disgust and shock, but a slight blush could be seen through all that foundation. That's outrageous. It's true, you bitch. Take it back. You call me every word under the sun, and I call you bitch once. That's really fair, Pansy. We're in Slytherin. Both of you, shut the fuck up. Draco cut them off, shouting. He was fed up with the bickering. But the reaction did get them a few weird looks, but it was nothing they had had before. Sorry, Dre, but he's a dickhead. Pansy took a final swig of her drink and pushed the plate back. She crossed her arms over her chest and crossed her legs. You two are insufferable. Draco rolled his eyes, and Blaze scoffed. Not like you're any better. Don't even start, Blaze, because we both know who wins. Draco pulled a smirk once again. The trio spoke a little longer and watched the younger years yawning and standing up with their friends, ready to get some sleep. Eventually, the first years were leaving, and only the 8th years were left in the Great Hall. Hello, students. Headmistress McGonagall walked down the small steps and motioned for all of them to come to the doors after her. Once they were all in the group, she began speaking. Now. She smiled at the golden trio in the front. This made Pansy, Blaze, and Draco roll their eyes. If you would follow me, I'll take you to your new dormitories. At least all the houses were separated, Ron sighed as he placed one of his jumpers on the bed. He folded it messily. There was 5 boys in each room, and thankfully McGonagall put Neville, Dean, Seamus, Ron, and Harry all together. Neville was already asleep in his bed in the corner. "Dean!" came a shout from the bathroom. Dean sighed, but smiled and walked quickly into the bathroom. "What, baby?" Came a muffled voice from the door was shut, and the sound was trapped inside. "I just hope they don't do it while we're here." Harry smiled, which earned a laugh from the ginger. Ron nodded and stretched before getting under the covers. "Good night, Harry." Ron sighed and turned off the lamp next to his bed. Harry mm-hmmed in response and turned over. He heard the bathroom door open and the 2 boys re-entered the room. They flopped into the same bed and started cuddling. Harry heard them whispering, kissing, and giggling for a while, but eventually he heard the slight snores from Seamus's mouth. He wished he could have something like that. With being back at Hogwarts and being confused with his emotions and sexuality, he just felt so lonely, even if he was surrounded by his friends, and slightly quietly and closed his eyes, drifting off into a deep slumber. Alright everyone, that is the end of today's episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. Not tomorrow, my goodness. In the next video, we are reading chapter 5. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, I will continue to post on Mondays and Fridays if you did not know. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Goodbye, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.